Hello and welcome back to the Most Days podcast. I'm Courtney, your host, and I am so excited that you're here. Today we're going to talk about money again. I told you before we're going to talk about money a lot. We're going to talk about burnout a lot. So here we go again. I recently posted a video on my Instagram account that was actually a video I had posted before, but I'm testing out some new styling and editing, and so I posted it again. And again, it got a lot of views, way more than before even. And it's about money, and it's about a mindset, a mantra that I have, that is, if money can fix it, it's not a real problem. So there's thousands of people who agree, shared it, liked it, and then there's, I don't know, less than 100, I would say, people, commenters that staunchly disagree and don't understand the perspective and what I'm trying to say. And so I want to talk more about it because I believe that that mentality, that abundance mindset that I have is one of the reasons I've been able to make money in my life and build some successful businesses. So I believe strongly that our relationship with money is the first step towards getting more money, and to put it as plainly as possible. A mindset of abundance cannot come after you've received the abundance. A mindset of abundance has to come before. And that's where people get stuck, really stuck. It's like, if the situation I'm in right now doesn't feel abundant, then how can I have a mentality of abundance? And that's the key. If you can do that, you will do better. You will find more money. I One of the criticisms I get is that, well, you've probably never been poor. No, I haven't been what we would call poor. I have been in some pretty stressful financial situations. In 2014, 2015, when I first took over running one of our businesses, I had no cash. The business had no cash. It was growing quickly, which, if you've grown a business, you know, if you're growing, you don't have cash. And if you have cash, you're probably not growing. It's an unfortunate truth about business. So we had no cash, and I had just taken it on. I had hired one employee, and I was paying myself just enough to get by, and it was tough. I put business expenses on my personal credit card constantly. I took out a line of credit, not secured by the home or anything, just like an unsecured line of credit. Um, and I, at one point, was in $80,000, I would say, of personal unsecured, either credit card or line of credit debt. Um, it was stressful. And it was in those, I mean, that year, I would say, I don't remember how long it was, honestly, that I first started to put into practice what I had been taught in life, and that if money can fix it, it's not a real problem, and that money is everywhere. Money is abundant, money is infinite. And at the end of the day, money cannot solve your problems and it cannot make you happy. And so a lack of money also shouldn't make you unhappy. But I had to go through that to, like, really understand that and really embody that. Once I got to that very stressful financial place and realized I'm still safe, I'm okay, I still have my family, I still have my friends, I still have my businesses, then I started to have a healthier relationship with money in general. And I think I try and think, well, why do you have this pretty confident stance about money? I'm not scared of losing it. I'm not scared of losing everything. I think it goes back to having a strong family of origin. Now, and not in the financial sense necessarily, like they're doing fine, but they're not crazy rich. It's not like they could bail me out if I had to declare bankruptcy. They're not gonna bail me out. But if I did lose everything, if I did declare bankruptcy right now and they took my house, I am confident that I could find a place to stay. That's it. And I'm confident I could find food. If you don't feel that way about your family, do you feel that way about any friends? Like, if you're about to take a huge financial risk and you want to feel just a little more safe, call your best friend and say, "Hey, I'm about to take this huge financial risk. If all goes to hell in a handbasket, can I stay with you for a couple months?" And if you've got good friends, they would probably say yes, right? I would. I would let a friend, my best friend, come live here if she needed to. I would let my parents do that if they needed to. So I think finding that safety is really important, and I thought a lot about why I feel confident, and I think a lot of it goes back to I feel safe. If you live in the United States and you don't have a friend or family member that you feel like could at least put a roof over your head for you during a bad time, if you live in the United States, you can find shelter and 3 hot meals a day. If you are not on drugs, and if you're willing to show up clean and without pride, you can get fed in this country between food banks and shelters and soup kitchens and whatnot. In this country, you can get fed. That is a fact. The thing that keeps people from getting fed is usually drugs or mental illness. There's some other factor there that is stopping people from getting the help that they need. Especially if you are the type who has resources now, you're never going to fall down to the point where you have no resources left. And I know that might seem like a stretch, but a lot of the negative comments on this theory that I have are that's not true. If you lose all your money, they can take your house, they can take your kids, they can your spouse will leave you. And there's this like really simplistic idea that losing money, it just all of a sudden makes you unhappy and on the street and without any options. And that's not the case, right? Especially if you live in the United States where our system is set up to support failure. We literally have a thing called bankruptcy, which is built into our financial programs in this country to assist you in failing so that you can fail softly. Bankruptcy is not the worst end to your financial problems. In other countries, in other places, and in other times, like especially, hundreds of years ago, if you owed somebody money and you couldn't pay, there was death on the table, right? Like, in our country, we have a failsafe. We have this thing called bankruptcy. We have rules where they can't take everything. They can't, there's safety built into it. So I think just having a mentality of if the worst case scenario happened, I would survive. I think that's where my safety, the feeling I have of safety around money comes from. If everything went wrong, I would survive and at least I would have my family. They're not gonna, my kids aren't gonna like leave me because we have to go live with Nana for a little bit. In fact, they'd probably be excited. So my first piece of advice around money and risk is to find a way to feel more safe. I've said before, the practice of imagining the absolute worst case scenario is really helpful to me. I do this around small decisions, like, okay, if we spend this money on this project at work and everything goes wrong, where are we at? I also do this with life, with the big decisions. If I lose everything, if they take away my house and my cars, and if our businesses fail, where am I at? And realize that there, in that moment, you could still feel happiness. You can. If you have the right mindset, if you believe that your family is more important than money, then money becomes something that's fun and not something that feels like life or death. And again, I'm speaking from a country of incredible wealth. I'm speaking from a country of free trade capitalism. I do know in the United States that opportunity is everywhere and we just have to look for it. So I have a couple ways that I believe we can build a mentality of abundance before you really believe it. So I don't expect anyone to listen to this and be like, that's true. I'm going to start having a mentality of abundance. Like, if that's not what you've been taught, if that's not the story you've been told your whole life, it's gonna take a minute to figure this out. So I have some tricks to kind of fake it before you make it, right? Some things you can do to get you to that mindset before you're ready. The first is practicing gratitude. And I know you've probably been told to practice gratitude in the past, but let me tell you how incredibly important it is to build a mindset of abundance. And I would encourage you to be very specific in your gratitude. I would also encourage you to do this practice when you start to do it at night and not in the morning. I do mine in the morning now, but there's something magical about the hour or so before you fall asleep. Your brain is just a little more malleable, especially in the moments before you fall asleep. And so if you set your brain up to be feeling and thinking these things before bed, I think you put yourself in a better position to really embody them and feel them in your dreams and in the next day. So, practicing specific gratitude. The first thing I think you should practice gratitude with is money. When your paycheck comes in, look at it, specifically state the amount and say that you are grateful for that abundance that has come to you. I am grateful for the $2,789 that I earned that puts food on the table, puts a roof over my head, and allows me to enjoy the fun things in life that I want to enjoy. Or if it's you're barely getting by, I am grateful for that money that puts a roof over my head, puts food on the table, and allows me to survive and keep going back to work another day. The little things in your life that you take for granted, a lot of the world doesn't have. I like I said, I do my gratitude in the morning, and more often than not, coffee specifically is on my gratitude list. And every time I put it there, I remember how blessed I am to have coffee. If you've ever read historical fiction or just history in general, coffee is a luxury and has been over time, right? When I hear in books and movies and stuff like coffee being a treat, it reminds me like, oh, it is. Or if you've ever read, I remember in Little Women, Beth, I believe, gets an orange for Christmas. And that was such a delicacy. It was such a luxury. And we just eat oranges like no big deal, right? But oranges are pretty amazing if you think about it. They're very yummy. And the fact that we live, I mean, we can grow citrus here, but a lot of places can't grow citrus, and you have the luxury of being able to import them and eat it whenever you want. You can buy an orange at the grocery store whenever you want. Don't forget how important that is. I remember during COVID, when you'd go into the grocery store and like it was hit or miss whether or not there'd be chicken or eggs or fresh fruit, right? I think that was a really important lesson for people to learn that didn't live through the depression. It was like this tiny little reminder of how life can be. The amount of resources available to us that we take for granted is abundant. It's huge. I also like to think about the past and how important this moment is. So, this is my house. If you had shown 20-year-old me this house, she would have thought she died and gone to heaven. This is a castle. I think about my apartment in college. I had at one point a one-bedroom apartment that was like little less than 400 square feet. And I brought my two cats up to live with me, so which is crazy. So I had two cats in a 400 square foot apartment. And it was all I could like afford. It was expensive too, right? Like I grew up I went to school in a kind of expensive town, and it was all I could afford to like just pay rent. And now I live in a castle compared to that. If you think about it that way, you live in a castle most likely compared to where you've been in the past or compared to where your parents had to grow up. I look at the car that I drive. Does your car start this morning? There was a time in your life where you probably couldn't reliably start your car. I mean, we all went through the college years, right? Of eating ramen every day. And now I get to eat whatever I want every day. Don't take that for granted. That is beautiful. And if you really sit in those moments and think about that, you will feel that happiness of like, wow, I've come a long way. And my life is full of blessings. From the coffee to the oranges to the car starting to the roof over my head, full of blessings. Gratitude's the first one. The second one is releasing the hold that money has on us and the perception that we have that money is anything but one thing. Money is one thing, and that is a trade for value. Money is a representation of value that you provide to the community. Not your value, not your self-worth, but value that you provide to others. And that can be said of any job, any way to earn money, any entrepreneurship. It's all, are you providing value into the community? And if so, you can get money back. That can even be said of interest, because you could argue, well, interest isn't. No, it is. Interest is the value of the money on money, right? Interest is the value of being able to lend or borrow money. So if you remove the mindset that money makes you worthy, money makes you happy, money solves problems, it doesn't. It is just simply a method for exchanging value in a community, for making trade easier. Now, instead of me cooking you bread and you giving me a chicken, we can just do dollars, right? That's all it is. So like, take the pressure off of it meaning more than that. It's all it is a scorecard for how much value you've put out or how much value you want to receive. So if we remove that weight from money, then I think it allows us to have a little more freedom with how we think about it. Because anything that you grasp onto really, really hard will wiggle out of your fingers. We know this, you know this about love, right? When you were dating in high school, college, there was always one person that was a little more into it than the other one. And that person just clung on just a little more. And what did that do? It pushed the other person away. I believe money acts the same way. I believe if we cling too hard to it, we will create a self-fulfilling prophecy where we never have enough of it. If we put it back out into the community and let it do its job, it will come back to us. That might sound a little woo-woo for some of you, a little magical, but I am telling you that it has worked for me in the past to just let go a little bit. I'm not telling you to be financially irresponsible, but being the type of person who pinches every penny will lead you to be unhappy. I don't know anyone like that who's like that stingy, right? Who's also happy. I haven't met somebody. If you have, let me know. Um, so just let it go a little bit. It's not as important as you think it is. It's not going to make you happy. That's an argument on that video is that a lot of people did say money can make you happy. And it's funny to me that anyone has that perception, because have you ever met rich people? They tend to not be happy. Like, look at the news about celebrities. Do they seem happy? Some of them, but a lot of them, even the ones you think were happy, and then they file for divorce and you're like, what? They just seemed so happy. No, money does not make you happy, and it does not solve all your problems. So if you just stop believing that, I promise you'll come by it easier. Third, get yourself some perspective. Get this. If you make $65,000 a year personally, you are in the top 10% of earners in the world. $65,000 a year puts you in the top 10% of earners in the world. Let that sink in. Half of the world's adults make $500 or less a month, equivalent to US dollars. If you live in the United States, you're rich. By the world standards, you are rich. You could be the most poor person in the United States, and you have better access to healthcare, you have better access to food and shelter, and you have better access to opportunity than the entire world. So have some perspective. When you're feeling like you never have enough, have some perspective. When I was in high school, I was going through, I think it was a breakup. I just remember I was in like I had an attitude. I was like 16, 17 years old, and everything was wrong, and I broke up with my boyfriend, and I went with my family and our church at the time to a short mission trip in Mexico. And we helped build a school, I think. Gosh, it was so long ago, I don't remember. But I do remember that was the first time I had seen true poverty. You know, you think I grew up in Phoenix, Tucson. There's some bad parts of town, right? And you think that's poverty. No, that's not poverty. not truly compared to what people go through in other countries. And not to put anyone's experience down. If you are living in what you perceive as poverty, I get it, it's hard. But our perception matters. And when you look at how other people live, where there's no floor, it's dirt on the floor, and the kids are so skinny that you can see every rib, and the cows were so skinny. I remember looking at the cows and thinking, like, how are those people going to eat? There's no meat on those cows. Like, it was the biggest attitude adjustment in a couple days that I've ever had. And I came back feeling incredibly grateful for my life and for everything that I had. And so I think to give yourself a little perspective, and don't, if you hear that and you think, well, that's just putting down, it's minimizing what I'm going through, then you're probably not going to like other things I have to say. Like, and that's okay. I'm not for everybody. Uh, but I'm not minimizing what you're going through. I'm helping to show you what some of other people in the world are going through. A lot of people on that post that I'm talking about, where I talk about if money can fix it, it's not a real problem. One of the comments was, well, poverty is a real problem. Yes, poverty is a real problem. And clearly money hasn't fixed it, right? Like, it if you are living in homelessness or extreme poverty, money cannot fix that. Not right now, at least. So that is a problem. I'm not saying that poverty is not a problem. Clearly, that's a problem. However, my assumption, if you're watching that video or if you're listening to this podcast, is that you have a smartphone and access to the internet. That's been my number one response. I assume you have a smartphone and access to the internet. I am not talking to the little kids in Mexico that I watched that weekend. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you, and you have a smartphone and access to the internet. You are among the richest people in the world. And I'm asking you to remember that. And remember, when I say if money can't fix it, it's not a real problem. What that means is that there are problems that money cannot fix. And those are the ones we should focus our time and effort on solving. And those are the ones we should be really, really grateful we're not going through right now. If you were diagnosed with terminal cancer and you either don't have the money to solve that, or there is no money solution, there's no cure, no matter how much money you have, that's a huge problem. That's life altering, life changing, life ending. If your toilet breaks and you don't have enough money in your bank account to get it fixed, but you can borrow $100 from your mom and you can put the rest on your credit card, fix it. Get over it. Like, if money can fix that, it's not a real problem. And I realize that that's a lot, that's black and white, and there's a lot of gray area in between. But my point is to not let yourself get hung up on the things that money solves, because those things inherently are materialistic. Especially like I said, especially in the United States, when we have access to such amazing abundance and such amazing opportunity in this country, and you always have the opportunity to earn more. Money is infinite. Money is abundant. It is everywhere, and money is not real. It is a symbol of value provided to your community. So next time we're going to talk about providing value to your community, and what a wonderful world that we live in right now, that there are so many opportunities to provide value that we didn't have 10 years ago. So many ways to make money now that we didn't know about or that we just invented recently. It's an exciting time, right? I believe it's an exciting time. That's my mentality. And guess what? If I believe it's an exciting time, it's going to be an exciting time. If you believe that AI is going to take your job and there's no opportunity left and you're poor and you're broke and you're always going to be poor and broke, then yes, you are always going to be poor and broke. It starts with your mentality. It starts with a mentality of abundance. And I believe that by practicing gratitude, by letting go of your tight grasp on money and what money means, and by giving yourself some perspective, you can start moving towards that mentality of abundance. And it can't hurt. It's not going to hurt you to take on this mentality, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen if you trust me and go a week trying these things? What's the worst that can happen? I promise you, nothing bad's going to happen. If it does, call me. Let me know. It's not going to happen. Something good's going to happen. I promise you, something good's going to happen. It's a little bit of magic, but If you know me, you know I believe in magic, and my goal is to help translate magic into the real world so that people like you will actually listen. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited because now, hopefully, this week, you're going to take on a little bit more of an abundance mindset and you're going to see how life changing it can be, I promise. Thank you for being here. This is Most Days. I'm Courtney.